off next Saturday evening at the later time of 8:35 with songs by Schumann and Schubert. Tomorrow marks the start of this year's Edinburgh International Festival. Claudio Abbado conducts the London Symphony Orchestra and the Edinburgh Festival Chorus in the opening concert, Verdi's Requiem. The Verdi Requiem is tomorrow at 8 o'clock on BBC Two and also in stereo on Radio 3. Dennis Waterman, Dana and Bernie Winters are among the artists appearing in Summertime Special from Eastbourne, which is just starting on BBC One. And here on 2 now, we feature a Film 82 special in which Ian Johnston talks to Hollywood actor Jack Nicholson.
Get that way.
How you feeling tonight, Carl?
Lousy.
Yeah. Yeah, you miss me.
Good evening. Tonight, Jack Nicholson. That was him with Jessica Lange in The Postman Always Rings Twice. We have a liberal sprinkling from some of his other films and an interview with him. I suspect if there was a poll of the world's most eminent directors, he would come out as their favourite actor. He has more talent than most, he has no reputation for trouble or tantrums on the set, but more than either of these factors, he has an intangible flair for investing the most ill-drawn of characters with depth and style, and where necessary, charisma. Having graduated from Roger Corman's heady films of the late 50s and early 60s, he's worked with the best in the business. Dennis Hopper in Easy Rider, Bob Rafelson in 5 Easy Pieces and The King of Marvin Gardens, Mike Nichols in Carnal Knowledge and The Fortune, Hal Ashby in The Last Detail, Roman Polanski in Chinatown, Michelangelo Antonioni in The Passenger, Milos Forman in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Stanley Kubrick in The Shining. Nicholson grew up in Neptune, New Jersey. His father, an alcoholic, abandoned the family soon after his birth. Today, Jack Nicholson is 45 and divorced with a grown-up daughter, Jennifer. I went to talk to him in his dressing room.
Can you remember the time in your own childhood or adolescence when you formulated the desire to be an actor?
Was there a point, someone you saw or someone who influenced you?
Well, no, I would say it was a gradual thing, as it probably is with most people. It's an unusual choice of occupation for a sort of centrally placed male American. You know, when you're out there in New Jersey, you don't suddenly pop up in the middle of your football practice and say, yes, I'm going to be an actor. You don't, it doesn't do it that way. I probably really started thinking about doing it after I was doing it. And vaguely, when I was working at MGM in the cartoon department, a job which I got really mainly to observe movie making because I was sort of starstruck at that time. Still am.
Histories of you at school, they relate that your rendering of Managua, Nicaragua, showed people the early talent. How did that, what was Managua, Nicaragua?
Managua, Nicaragua was a hit song of the early 40s, actually, in which I sang it in a grammar school variety show in a red and gold crepe paper cape with a sort of bellboy's monkey hat on. I was rather flamboyant, I would say, for a 7-year-old or whatever it was.
You started acting in the Players' Ring in Los Angeles. Were they a good group?
Very good group, a very good thing happened to me there. It was the first production that I actually worked on. I went to the readings for 2 productions. They had 2 theaters, and they'd read for 2 full productions, which 2 plays of any kind more or less will cover every actor in Hollywood who's not immediately working at that time or about to be not working. And I got to see everybody read, and that was very encouraging to me. I noticed, you know, almost no one read well, and I thought, well, this isn't so bad, you know, not such a huge mountain from that moment on. And I think it was a freak occurrence that an actor would get to see that in a professional situation with the same actors who were competing for the television shows and the films, for the most part, and get to suddenly see them all in that most naked of all acting postures, reading for a part. It is the toughest thing to do, I suppose. And as a result of that, I always read very well.
When you got into movies, those early films, the pre-Easy Rider films, the Roger Corman movies, do they make you wince when you see them on television now?
Well, they all make you wince. I mean, I think work of any vintage, because, you know, you embody your own work, I would imagine makes anyone wince, or at least it should. I got to do a few things that I actually liked, and I must say that although I was in some of the most dreadful pictures of all time, that I was, and so were all of the people I was working with, trying to do their best under the circumstances, and that's really all you need as a developing actor, is just to be trying to do it well. If you can live with the humiliation of, you know, being in something where it's pretty funny, you know, it's not bad for you.
The patient came to me with a large hole in his abdomen, caused by a fire poker used on him by his wife. He almost bled to death and gangrene had set in. I didn't give him much of a chance. There were other complications. The man had cancer, tuberculosis, leprosy, and a touch of the grip. I decided to operate.
My patient just left. You could come in now.
Oh, goody. I didn't see the other man leave.
Well, he went out the back door.
You know, most people don't like to go to the dentist, but I rather enjoy it myself, don't you? I mean, there's a real feeling of growth, of progress when that old drill goes in. I mean, I'd almost rather go to the dentist than anywhere, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Now, no Novocaine. It dulls the senses.
This is gonna hurt you more than it is me.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes. Oh, my God, don't stop now!
I always have felt that I was lucky, because if I had been successful that early, I'd be in a position where I was trying to make a comeback now. You know, almost all of the actors, for instance, the first show that I was in, Michael Landon was the star actor in it, and while we were doing the play, he got Bonanza. So all of my career, up until when Michael left Bonanza, went on while he was on Bonanza. And that was very good for him, you know what I mean? And everybody was envious, as I would be naturally at the time. But in reality now, obviously, I wouldn't trade it with him.
The turning point for you was certainly Easy Rider. Someone told me that you modeled your part, the part of the Southern lawyer, on LBJ.
Well, I didn't have the normal length of time that you would have to study a dialect, and since the character was from Texas, and some of the speeches that he had were sort of evangelical, Johnson's speech pattern, and which was familiar to my ear at this time from hearing it and so forth. You know, I mean, I didn't put it out in front as an imitation, but it was something true that I could refer to. in terms of a way of talking. But also I wore I wore glasses like I remembered from, my family, my father wearing at that time. Character was supposed to be 42. I sort of remembered what my father's glasses, all kinds of things like that.
Well, you boys don't look like you're from this part of the country. You're lucky I'm here to see that you don't get into anything.
Anything?
Well, they got this here, Scissor Happy Beautify America thing going on around here. They're trying to make everybody look like Yul Brynner. They used rusty razor blades on the last two long hairs that they brought in here, and I wasn't here to protect them. See, I'm a lawyer. Done a lot of work for the ACLU.
George Hanson. Listen, you think you can help us get out of here with no sweat?
Oh, I imagine that I can if you haven't killed anybody. At least nobody white. All right, Carl. Thanks a million. Say a little missus for me, will you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here's the first of the day, fellas. To old D.H. Lawrence. Indians.
You mentioned that you modelled your spectacles on your father in Easy Rider. In 5 Easy Pieces, there's a scene where you break down in front of your paralysed father. Were the shades of your own home there? Was there anything realistic about the way you did that scene? Which I understand you were reluctant to do, is that so?
Well, I was reluctant to do it because it was a scene that Rafelson, the director, wanted very badly in the picture. And the writer, Carol Eastman, who had also written The Shooting for Monty and I, which was her first piece of professional writing, and this was her second. And I think probably today, it certainly is one of the best, if not the best, pieces of material that I've ever gotten to do, from script form to film result. And she is extremely elliptical in her writing and felt that the scene structurally was the obligatory summing up scene, and felt that that scene shouldn't be in there, that you shouldn't you shouldn't indulge, pander the audience that much. You know how in creative issues people make up these rules for themselves. And my loyalties, although normally they would always be with the director in that situation because you're on the spot and the writer is not, I have a deep sentimental attachment to Carol, a long relationship. The film was written sort of out of her impulses about her family and also what she knew about me. And I had a slightly more than usual feeling about defending the writer. However, that didn't keep me from actually writing the scene the morning that we shot it.
I'm trying to imagine your half of this conversation. My feeling is, I don't know, that if you could talk, we wouldn't be talking. It's pretty much the way that it got to be before I left. Are you all right? I don't know what to say. Tina suggested that we try to. I don't know. I think that she feels that we've got some understanding to reach.
Were there echoes of your relationship with your own father in that film?
I didn't have any real problems with him, and I don't really. There was a substitute male figure in the house. I have older sisters and married. And he was rather a nice, very mild gentleman, John Jay.
Still alive?
No, they Both my parents have been dead for a while. Rest in peace. So no, I would say I had I would say, throughout I've had a fairly easy life, really, when you get down to it.
In Carnal Knowledge, the character of Jonathan, did he have a lot in common with you?
I might have viewed, here's the way I viewed the character as opposed to the way the writer might have viewed him or whatever, but he's the person who at the beginning of the relationship in college is in this triangular thing. He's the one, after all, who gets excluded from it. I looked at him as that kind of person who appears to have everything, but who inside is very insecure and actually was the one most damaged by it.
And along comes this Bobby. I get one look at the size of the pair on her, and I never had a doubt I'd ever be anything but okay again. And I was. With all our kidding back and forth on our first night together, I don't mind telling you, I had tears in my eyes.
She's really the girl in the airline commercial.
You lucky son of a bitch. I don't know. I don't want to get in over my head. I got in over my head 3-4 times already, and you have to be a real bastard.
I looked at it as a very pragmatic kind of emotional progression. Disastrous, this is the way you get to editorialize as an actor, but accurate. I mean, it did give me a lot of trouble. I mean, not a lot, you know what I'm saying. Women would project that image, uneditorialized, toward me at least, you know, women's movements, etc. I like the unpopular statement. I'm fond of it. I think it's part of your vocation. I think you have to not always be saying extolling what's fashionably popular at the moment. I think that's another vitalizing element, not moral, but craft.
Did you draw on your own experience with women to contribute to Jonathan's disillusion?
Naturally. I mean, I will draw on my own experience with women in every part I play.
What is your own experience with women?
What's my own experience with women? I've had a lot of experience with them so far. Pretty good so far.
The Last Detail, the film about the military policeman, what was the appeal of that film?
Basically, I liked the characters. It was something that I really hadn't really played before. And thematically, I'm interested in the professional person. To me, that film, remember, was made during the war in Vietnam. And I looked at it as a fairly honest, critical portrait without knives drawn of the warrior caste. This is what you're really dealing with someone who's a member of the warrior caste. By that, a volitional military person. They're not thinking in terms of raping, looting, burning, and pillaging. They're thinking like a military person. This is my assignment.
Hi, boy. I call karate.
Wipe your nose, be a kid. You fought like a champ, though, didn't you? Jeez. Yeah? Damn, it was great. It was great, wasn't it? It was great. Admit it. Come on, give me a little of this. Give me just because they call me Shine in here, huh?
You know, I mean, he was not a dead average guy, but it was an accurate portrait, I think. I mean, we were very close to the book, and I liked it. Again, it's something that I'm proud of. I won every national acting prize in the world except the Academy Award for that.
Possibly you might have won the Academy Award if you'd appeared in a bigger picture, but I understand you turned down The Godfather and The Sting.
Yes, that's true, and I I think I had enough business acumen, I know I had enough business acumen by then to know that that both The Sting and The Godfather were going to be huge hits. At the same time, I happen to think that Last Detail and Chinatown are, to me, they were the more interesting of the films. Godfather was going to be a good film. I'd always wanted to work with Marlon, but I was asked to play the lead in it, and A, I felt it should be an Italian person, and B, didn't have any scenes with Marlon in the script I read. And I thought, well, I'm liable only to get to work with Marlon once, and let's hope that it might be something where we really had to work together.
When you eventually did work with Brando, I understand you call him the guy on the hill, is it?
The big man on the hill.
Why do you call him that?
Well, he lives up the hill from me.
Well, when eventually you did work with him on Missouri Breaks, was it worth the wait?
It's something to watch him work, you know. I mean, I always feel I have a very private slant on him anyway. By private, I don't mean through exposure to him, but just the way I view him based on what I do, what he does, you know, the things that you can't fool and the things that you can fool people with. And he's an, you know, you'd be a fool not to. I mean, every actor would want to work with Brando.
When it comes to the crunch like that, is there a sense of competition in your performances, do you find?
I think it's silly to think that there's not competition on every movie. It's like any other thing. It's like professional basketball. You know, it's totally competitive. They're in it for the money and certain moments and the poetry of what they do. And in reality, you have to work together as a unit or it's not a successful venture, but there's still that inner, I think, positive competition. I mean, I would be afraid to be openly competitive with Marlon Brando as an actor, you know. I mean, it would be crazy.
You don't carry a gun?
No, I never carry a gun.
Well, I never wear a gun either. Once in a while I carry this little darling around. She's almost like a poem. You know, it's all hand done. Etched, you know. Scratched in silver. She's a beauty. Made for the president of Mexico, and I diverted it for a $100 bill. But it doesn't shoot worth a damn. Some damn fool came along and filed off the top of the front sight there. And you have to sort of play with it. It isn't easy. Have a look at the rope. Not bad. There's one left. I doubt it.
One of the most important parts you never played was The Great Gatsby. You wanted to do that.
Well, I wanted to play the part because, oddly, I didn't want that film. I mean, it was offered to me at certain points in one way or another, and I didn't really want to give an answer at the time it was offered to me. And Redford and his people wanted the film very badly. And again, I suppose I was doing something else at the time that made me not accept it originally. I think I didn't like the way they were talking about it. I didn't like the feel of it. It's like Cuckoo's Nest was offered to me 3 times before I took it, but I didn't, and by people I like. They didn't have the feel of it yet. Milos got the script right. I don't think they ever found. I'm sad about it because since I started as an actor, you know, there's always, everybody says, wow, there's a part you should play. And The Great Gatsby was one that they had always talked about my playing ever since I was, you know, started acting. It's a character I could have enjoyed.
Because when I read what your friends say about you, they say that there is something of The Great Gatsby in you. You are an organizer. Mm-hmm. There are Jack Nicholson parties, but at the same time, there is this beacon burning that not everybody knows what it is on the other side of the bay.
That's right. That is true. I have a little, like everybody, a little on something else from F. Scott Fitzgerald. He said something that I think is very light but very significant, which is it is possible to be the nicest man in the world. It's a great statement, isn't it?
You eventually won an Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I read somewhere that you said that actors and schizophrenics have a multiple identity in common.
You have a reality, and you have another reality, and then you relate to one, and then you relate to the other, and both identities are complete and interrelate, but they're very divided. The standards, the values are split. And in another sense, I think obviously you try and become another person as an actor, and that you have in common. Even though it's not a conscious trying, it's a very driven thing for a schizophrenic to go to this other place. It's probably more genetic and chemical than it is psychological in its extreme case. I think modern medicine is more or less proving that. But it's not bad.
Your hand is staining my window.
Sorry, man. Really sorry.
Mr. McMurphy?
Huh?
Your medication.
What's in the horse pill?
It's just medicine. It's good for you.
Yeah, but I don't like the idea of taking something if I don't know what it is.
Don't get upset, Mr. McMurphy.
I'm not getting upset, Miss Pilbo. It's just that I don't want anyone to try and slip me saltpeter. You know what I mean?
It's all right, Nurse Pilbo. If Mr. McMurphy doesn't want to take his medication orally, I'm sure we can arrange that he can have it some other way. But I don't think you'd like it, Mr. McMurphy.
You'd like it, wouldn't you?
Well,
Give it to me.
Good. Very good.
Yummy.
Mr. Harding?
Oh. Merci.
Tell me, lover boy, why didn't you tell her to go?
In Cuckoo's Nest, your character was clinically insane, but at the beginning of The Shining, the man you played was normal, at least to his wife and to his son.
Yes, I mean, I think you would find that in most cases of insanity that the wife and children of the person involved wouldn't think they were that insane. Witness the many people whose life stories you may have heard where you think their parents are insane. They don't think they're insane at all. It's just they think they had a particularly rough incident or two. I think that's, I think probably that's the, you can't play insane, as I learned from all the people in Cuckoo's Nest. It really doesn't look like anything particular. It's actions, what people actually do.
Are you sure it was the right room? I mean, maybe Danny made a mistake.
He must have gone in that room. The door was open, the lights were on.
I just don't understand it. What about those bruises on his neck? Somebody did that to him.
I think he did it to himself.
That's not possible.
Wendy, once you rule out his version of what happened, there is no other explanation. Is there?
The The Shining was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and in the film industry at least, his name attracts more mystery than anyone else's. What's he like? What's it like working with him?
He's perfectionist, as almost everyone we've discussed would fall into that personality characteristic. They're a perfectionist. But I mean, on a more provable level. I mean, you know, it's different in a movie situation if you say, how was it, to the operator. Stanley has the teleprompter now, so he knows. And the amount of reasons that he has why a take is not acceptable is, you know, quintessentially perfectionist.
Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on your chinny chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. Here's Johnny!
Many stars, Paul Newman I know, having struggled to become famous, then abjure the fame. Does it bother you?
It's not a burden as such. I mean, about all these things that are touchy, I think the job is to not have them be touchy, you know? I mean, it's like you asked about, do I believe in ghosts or whatnot? To me, if it's outside what's naturally viewable, it's as big a waste of time disbelieving something as it is believing it. You know what I mean? Hello? Yes. Hi, darling. Yes, you're on film now, honey. What do you think, Viv?
Who is it?
It's Toots. No, they just want to know when I'm coming for dinner.
Tell them to keep it in the oven.
Yeah, it'll be another 15 minutes or so, so figure me in an hour. Who's coming? Fine. You arrange all this. Anything's fine with me. Okay, darling. See you later. Bye.
Who's Toots?
Angelica. And so, if you, you know, I mean, you irritate yourself if you get, you know, if you think you're going to have privacy in a situation where obviously you're not going to. I mean, I now have some devices to secure it.
Jack Nicholson. I'm afraid I don't know if the supper got burnt, but it's reassuring to learn that film stars can be subject to the same domestic pressures as we ordinary mortals. This year in Britain we saw a very different Jack Nicholson as Eugene O'Neill in Warren Beatty's film Reds. Beatty told me he was anxious to mellow Nicholson's usual joie de vivre into the dark melancholy of the writer, and I think he succeeded.
I just want us to be friends, Gene.
Oh, how genteel. That would be a good role for you, wouldn't it? There's Louise with Jack and Jean. He's crazy about her, but Jack doesn't know. Poor Jack. Poor Jean. What a heartbreaker she is. What a heartbreaker you are, Louise.
I'm sorry.
Where is he?
Washington.
Well, Mrs. Reed, I'll do whatever you say. What do you want me to do?
Wish us well.
I wish
Jack Nicholson as Eugene O'Neill in Reds. But let's end on a brighter note, back a few years, in the little shop of horrors. Let me remind you of the storyline. Jack has been to the dentist, which he seemed to enjoy rather too much.
Well, I made a lot of holes, and now I gotta fill it up with this here silver stuff.
Well, aren't you gonna pull any?
Well,
Oh, go on.
well, to your mouth.
Well, Dr. Favre, it's been quite an afternoon. I can truly say I've never enjoyed myself so much. I'll recommend you to all my friends.